Hey, good afternoon, everybody. This is Robert Wolf with Stirring the Pot, Politics Without Fear, and today going to talk a little bit about the mandatory country of origin labeling. It's coming up in the United States quite a bit now with the um, talk of bringing in beef from other countries, which we have done for years. It's nothing new. Quantity varies as far as that goes, and the usages tend not to be for your like ribeye steaks or your, you know, roasts. They tends to mostly be trim. Um, but wanted to go ahead and talk about that for a little bit. Again, this is November 5th. It's Wednesday afternoon. Nice day out, about 70 degrees where I'm at here in the Midwest. And when you see product of the USA stamped on a steak in the grocery stores, what do you picture? Uh, Rolling pastures, local ranchers, maybe a hardworking American farmer somewhere in the Midwest. Well, or out on a ranch there in Wyoming, Montana, especially now with Yellowstone. Well, here's the truth: the label doesn't always mean what you think it does. It might not even mean the animal was born or raised here. Sometimes it just means the meat was packaged here. Today we're diving into that, into what's behind the label, how country of origin labeling went from promise of transparency to a loophole big enough to drive a cattle truck through it. So, uh, so here's my question to you: do you care where your food comes from? Should it matter to you? And if you really knew, if you saw every stop the food made before it hit your plate, would it change what you buy or who you support and the price that you're willing to pay? Let's start with a little history lesson. Country of origin labeling, or COOL, came out of the 2002 Farm Bill. It was a simple idea: give consumers the right to know where their food comes from. Beef, pork, seafood, fruits, vegetables, all labeled, plain and simple. But fast forward to 2015, and that right quietly disappeared for beef and pork. Congress repealed mandatory COOL, not with a big public debate, but buried inside a 1.4 trillion omnibus spending bill. No headlines, no floor speeches, just gone. Now, you have to ask yourself, why hide it there? If lawmakers truly believed in what they were doing, wouldn't they have stood by it in the daylight? Was it about trade pressure, lobbying from the big meat packers? Four of them in beef, two of them are Brazilian owned, or maybe, just maybe, they didn't want you to pay attention. And here's the detail most people miss: COOL is still mandatory for chicken, lamb, and goat. So why not for beef and pork? Why are the two biggest parts of the American meat market the ones that lost transparency? Here's where it gets really interesting and honestly infuriating. When you see product of the USA on a package of ground beef, it doesn't necessarily mean that animal was born, raised, or even fed here. It could have been imported from Brazil or Argentina or Uruguay or Australia or so many other countries, processed here in the United States facility, and suddenly, boom, it's product of the USA. Isn't that wonderful? It's not illegal. It's the loophole, and it's the one the industry's been dying on for years. You know, um, But the USDA is finally taking some steps to fix it. Under new proposal, the label product of the USA would mean exactly what most of us thought it already did. And that's the animal was born, raised, slaughtered, processed here in the United States of America. That's not a radical idea. It's just honest. You know? So here's what here's what we'd like you to think about. Do you believe customers, do you believe consumers have the right to know every step of where their food comes from? Would that kind of honesty change how you shop or how much you're willing to pay to support local farmers? You know, probably have heard political talk about foreign beef, especially from Argentina. Donald Trump has used it as a talking point, arguing imports to threaten American farmers, get your prices down. But of course, they've got costs, you know. But the truth is, trade politics, not farmers, often drive his decisions. Back in the 2010s, Canada and Mexico took the U.S. to the World Trade Organization over country of origin labeling. They said our labels were unfair to their products, their producers. The World Trade Organization agreed, and the threat of billions in sanctions pushed Congress to repeal country of origin labeling for beef and pork. So international trade rules ended up deciding what you can know about your food. And I don't think most Americans are aware of that or they like it. And let's be honest, we could have said no. Congress could have said, so what? The World Trade Organization doesn't control the United States, even though some people would act like it does. So that's the real question here. Should global trade disputes outweigh your right to transparency as a consumer? When did you start letting other countries, or corporate lobbyists? That's the real issue. It's corporate lobbyists because, again, as I mentioned, 4 meat packers, 2 of them are owned by Brazil. Tell us how much truth we're allowed to see, what we're allowed to know. And remember, some of these meat packers have had to pay millions of dollars in settlements for the things that they have done. Maybe they're not the best stewards of our decision making. We need to push for transparency. Today, the push is growing again, and I think a lot of people, there's a lot of friction in the movement because it is a diverse movement. There are people on the political far right or political far left that both believe country of origin labeling is a good thing, but they believe it for different reasons. And the problem is that you can't, in our society right now, you can't take the win and say, hey, we both agree. Let's just do it. You got to dig into those details. Well, you want to do it for this reason, and I want to do it for that reason, so we don't want to do it for the same thing. And it then just all ends up not happening. The USA Beef Act, a piece of legislation that hasn't really materialized, is working to restore mandatory country of origin labeling for beef. And farmers and consumers are speaking up, saying enough with the loopholes, enough with the corporate games. And that's what the American people have to do. They have to make sure that they are talking to their Congress people and saying, hey, I may be with you on 99 out of 100 issues, but on this issue, you're wrong. And you need to fix it. Yes, that's crazy numbers because nobody agrees with anybody 99 out of 100 times. If they do, that just means one person's telling the other person what to do. It just doesn't happen in reality. But you understand my point. They want a fair market where products of the USA actually mean what it says. That's just the way it should work. If it's not born and raised here in the United States for an animal, just because it came here to die doesn't really make it a product of the USA. And that's where I think a lot of people gotta realize that sometimes when something is brought here just to be killed and fed to us, that doesn't make it a product of the USA, but the labeling allows it to be. Because this isn't just about regulation, it's about trust, it's about fairness, it's about knowing that when you spend your hard earned money on food, and you spend your hard earned money on food, you're not being misled. Let me ask you, when you shop, how much do you trust the labels on your food? Would a clear labeling system change your choices at the store? Or maybe even make you feel better about what you have put on the plate? Whether your beef comes from Missouri, Montana, or Mendoza, Argentina, you have the right to know the truth behind that label. Product of the USA shouldn't be a marketing slogan. It should be a statement of fact, because those words are more than just ink on a package. They're the bridge between the farmer who raises your food and the family that sits down to eat it. If you're thinking your local neighborhood farmer grew your beef, but yet it was grown in Australia, that's a big difference. And you see it on products all over. Product of Italy. Try and buy some prosciutto. You're either going to get fake prosciutto or you're going to get the real stuff. And if you get the real stuff, it's going to be marked product of Italy. So here's what I'll leave you with. Should country of origin labeling apply to all food, not just meat? How far should transparency go? And who gets to decide what we're allowed to know? And I think the answer to that is simple. It's the American people. We should be able to know what we want to know. And if that means a few extra cents that we have to pay for it because the packaging has to change or something like that, I think most Americans would rather know the truth than not. But I could be wrong. So feel free to let me know. So I'm Robert Wolf, and this has been Stirring the Pot Politics Without Fear, because sometimes the only way to fix the rigged system is to stir it up a little. So until next time, stay smart, stay stubborn, and stay savvy. And hopefully you will get out there over the next few days this week. And it's supposed to be warm here in the Midwest, so hopefully you're having some good days, nice sunny days, and enjoy a warm early November day. Thank you.